Hello, podcast listener. This is your host with the most, or I should say your host with the most, JJ. My goal is to meet every single person on the planet, and the easiest way for me to do that is to prove to you that I have been nice and not naughty this year. Plus, Tucker and I are going to have a great discussion about our top 5 favorite Christmas movies of all time. Sit back, relax, grab some eggnog, and enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World. And by the way, if you'd like to help support our podcast, visit jjmeetsworld.com where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some killer swag at our merch shop, or click the link to Apple Podcast and give us a 5-star review.
1, 2, 3, 4. JJ Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. JJ has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
When you wake up, like, how soon do you eat?
On a weekday, usually not until about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe a little later.
Okay.
And that's because I'm just not much of a breakfast person, and I work over lunch. That's when I'm hosting my radio show. And so 2 o'clock is I'm usually starving by then. And so I'll have something to eat and then turn around in a couple hours and have dinner as well. So those are but on the weekend, I will, I get up and I'll maybe grab something. So like today I had some leftover Chinese food. I'm also not beholden to breakfast food for breakfast. I will eat cold spaghetti, Chinese food, chili.
Wait a minute. What? You'll eat cold spaghetti for breakfast on a weekend? Uh-huh. God damn it. What's wrong with you, dude?
I'm a man of simple pleasures.
Disgusting.
Simple pleasures.
There's no meal that I would eat cold spaghetti.
What? Really?
None. Cold spaghetti? No.
You've never eaten cold spaghetti? Oh, it's delightful. I'll tell you why.
Why would I? I'd be like, oh, this is cold. You must have just taken it out of the fridge. Maybe we should heat this up first. We're using that technology that the cave people came up with.
But the nice thing about cold spaghetti is it's sort of congealed. Because
that's not nice.
Yeah, and then you can eat it in brick form. And then you don't have to worry about you can just, take it and take a bite and you're good to go, and you can see where your bite is.
Dude, God damn it. How do you, how can you like that, but not like mayo and mustard?
Because those things are disgusting. You can't eat those things like a brick. In JJ Gordon's world, if you can't eat it like a brick, it's not worth it.
How do you handle soups then?
Soup?
You freeze them?
Cold soup. Cold frozen soup like a brick.
You just cut off a slice of the ice and then just gnaw on that ice.
Yeah. God, doesn't that sound delicious? They're like little flavor cubes.
No.
I was talking with a gentleman this week, and the conversation started with a coworker who said she's never eaten SpaghettiOs. And I do find that to be odd, because I feel like SpaghettiOs are a staple of almost any childhood diet at some point or another, but I can accept that.
It's certainly if you were a kid of the 90s.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, the marketing for SpaghettiOs was even great, right? So I can buy that, but that led to us saying, okay, so what's the soup? If you're homesick, what's the soup you're going to eat? And she mentioned her soup, and my coworker said, oh, I don't eat soup. I don't like soup. So, well, what? You can't not eat soup. Soup is it's a staple of everything, right? Like at some point in your life, there are entire courses of multi-course meals dedicated to the soup. And he said, no, I don't eat soup. I said, well, what do you do? Like you're home and you're sick and you need to feel good. And he goes, oh, what I do is I make Jello, but I don't let it solidify. I drink the hot Jello mix.
Oh, God damn it.
And I was like, do you know how much sugar that is? It's insane. So, and he's like, yeah, I've been doing it since I was a little kid. My mom used to make me hot Jello. And I was like, hot Jello? You took a perfectly good food you could eat like a brick and you ruined it by just not being patient. Tucker, speaking of patience, I would like to give out a recipe here. So at the time of this recording, it is 1 week until Christmas, or December 25th. And
Is it exactly 1 week?
It's exactly 1 week from today. 1 week from today. So you got 1 week to do a couple good deeds to make up for all the naughtiness you had this last year. Also,
I'm a good boy. I don't need to wait it at the end that bad.
Isn't it weird how we associate the word naughty with like a lot of sex? You know, like, ooh, she's naughty. And we haven't changed that at all when it comes to like, have you been naughty or nice this year? You're just making it too easy for the strip clubs to advertise. Like, kids are either naughty or nice, and then they grow up and they're like, oh God, my uncle used to tell me all the time how naughty I was, and now it's got this weird feeling to it. Ooh, I
Yeah,
like it.
I think naughty only applies if the requisite punishment is a spanking.
Oh, okay.
Then you were if what you did and it's like, oh, you did that, well, now you need a spanking. That means it was naughty. If you did something and they're like, hey, we need to call the cops, well, then it's not naughty. It's far worse than naughty. But when it's just like, ooh, that's naughty, right? That's a transgression.
Okay, hold on. Wait, dial it back just a minute. So your example is if you do something naughty, you get a spanking. But if it's beyond naughty, you call the cops. What age person are we talking about here? Are we talking about naughty, a 5-year-old, or are we talking about a 45-year-old?
Anyone.
So you think that one of the punishments that we should allow for people who break a law or a social norm is a spanking regardless of age?
Well, if what they did was naughty.
Give me an example of an adult naughty.
Oh,
you know, like, okay, let's say you, Tucker, are going to get spanked. What are you being spanked for?
It was probably because my significant other, she was on like a Zoom call with her coworkers, and I decided in the background, off camera, so only she could see it, like walk through in like a sexy outfit, like a sexy nurse or something, and then she gets all flustered, and then she goes, "You made me get really flustered when I was in that call. That's naughty."
Okay.
And I'd probably deserve a spanking.
It's sexual in nature. You're describing something sexual in nature.
Well, but I did a bad thing.
Okay. Yep. So, for example,
punished.
let me ask you about something that is less private. Like, if
I never got spanked as a kid, though, so that's probably part of it.
Yeah, my parents were not spanking parents either.
And I think for a lot of people, the fetishization of it is something that comes from when it was something you were scared of as a kid.
Interesting.
And I didn't have to be scared of it because the threat was never there.
When I hear the word spanking, I think of one of my favorite quotes from the Simpsons. I got a hankering for some spankering. And
who said that?
Homer said it. Got a hankering for some spankering. And I believe it was in reference to like Bart doing something bad.
Now, did your parents get spanked? Is that why they didn't spank you?
You know, I feel like maybe there was something even beyond spanking in my mother's household. I feel like maybe they were a wooden spoon household.
Yikes.
I don't know what punishments my dad had. You know, he was he of two children, he was the youngest, and they were on the farm, but the farm was still like in town, like in city limits, like so I don't know if he had to go like sleep with the chickens or something like that, but both of my parents were non-spanking parents. Now, that being said, my dad would grab you by the wrist and lead you out of wherever you were making a scene. And that was always a little embarrassing. But it's not like he'd pick you up off the ground. It was enough to just like be, you know, like you'd look up and you'd see that he won't even make eye contact with you. And you're like, oh God, I have been naughty. Okay. So what was punishment in your household?
It was, I mean, probably a timeout of some kind, but like my sister and I didn't really get in trouble that much. Like we didn't really act out a lot. We were kids, but we just, you know, I don't know. We didn't get in trouble that much. We really didn't. My sister got in trouble a little more than I did, but not by a lot.
So you guys are just kind of lame.
Yeah, we were just kind of boring kids.
Yeah,
no, I think we were awesome kids, and that's why I never got spanked. My sister got one swat on the butt from my dad once when she was being, I guess, herself.
Was she being naughty?
She was being naughty
Ugh,
as a kid.
see, doesn't it feel gross to say that?
No, when it's a kid doing it, then I understand the context. When it's an adult doing it, the context changes.
Okay, I gotcha.
Yeah. It's all about context, JJ.
What's the age where naughty takes on a new feeling?
When should you
Like when does
21.
naughty?
21.
21.
21.
21. In a good consenting age.
Yep. And you both, there's been a handshake and open communication and consent, and there's all sorts of
and you told
unpacking.
them I am anticipating some naughtiness later tonight from me.
Yeah.
And so I would like you to punish me in such a appropriate way, whether that includes spanking or some kind of bedroom timeout. But I would appreciate you being a good parent.
I think the reason I didn't get hit as a kid was because guilt worked on me so well.
Oh yeah, guilt, a powerful weapon.
Oh my goodness, guilt works so well on me, and so I never had to, because just knowing I was in trouble was enough for me to just curl up into a ball and be like, I'm a terrible human being.
Yeah,
I'm awful.
I remember a couple things where I lost out on something. So like to me, obviously TV was a big thing growing up. And so I remember.
Okay, JJ, no more giant Hershey's bars.
I bought that myself. So that wasn't even like something my parents could take away. In fact, they
couldn't just take it.
They came home and I was cutting it up with an electric carving knife. Because I was quite the little scamp when I was a kid. I believe
How much money did you save up for that?
Oh, I think I spent like $20 on it at a church bazaar. So it was a long time. And I'm sure I made that poor woman, like I paid for it all in coins that I kept in a Crown Royal bag because I thought that was classy.
Mm-hmm.
I want to give out this. It is a recipe for my grandmother's mandarin orange jello. It's a staple at holidays in the Gordon household, has been for my entire life. You make regular orange jello, but instead of putting in the cold cups of water after you've boiled the hot water and added the gelatin mix, you are going to add the equivalent of orange sherbet instead. So, for example, if you're making 2 of the small packets and you need 2 cups of cold water, you're going to actually add 2 cups of orange sherbet instead. And then you're going to add a can per 2. Like, so if you're doing the small ones, 2 of the small ones, you're going to add 1 can. If you're doing a large one, it's 1 can. But if you do like 2 large ones, because you're feeding a lot of people, it's going to need 2 cans of mandarin oranges drained and then slightly washed, because the syrup just adds so much extra sugar. Just like wash those things off and pop them in. Pop it into the fridge. It is delightful. Adding a little dollop of whipped topping, even better. I hope that everyone enjoys that. It's a wonderful side dish. And you know what? Here's the thing. Because it's so orangey, I don't even care if I get gravy on it. Like I usually like it touches the other things on my plate, and I usually am just thrilled. I'll be making that for our Christmas celebration and toting it all over the countryside as I enjoy the holidays.
I definitely need a strong divider between my savory and my sweet food at holiday meals.
Okay, so so much so that like, are you using like a piece of lefse or something that can?
No, I'm using a separate plate. For
really?
Yep. Meaning cranberry, whatever, any desserts, any fruits, anything that's not savory or salty, I guess, if we're going to try to use that word to encompass the main foods.
I'm kind of shocked by that.
No, I really want a firm divider between those two. Now, let's just use Thanksgiving meal as an example. Like on my plate, I'll pile together the turkey, the mashed potatoes, the stuffing, and all the dumplings, and all that gravy will be on everything, and it'll just be all kind of mixed together. But I don't want to put anything sweet on that plate to get mixed in with it, because the idea of like having a dessert that some of my gravy gets on grosses me out.
Really? Well,
It's just too much. It's way too much.
I can handle it. Now, I have been a huge fan for years that why are we cutting, like if you serve Christmas ham, let's say, why are you cutting me a circular shaped piece of ham when in fact, if you cut me ham strips, I could be using them in the same way we use concrete barriers during construction season to make sure that things don't mix with each other. But at one point, I'm like, you know what? It all ends up in the same place, my mouth, and then my stomach, and then the toilet.
Don't you consider ham, though, to be the lowest of the holiday cooked beasts?
No. Oh, God, no.
I think so.
I mean, if you're going to say, JJ, what do you want on Thanksgiving? It's always turkey. I don't understand the families that do ham on Thanksgiving, but to each his own. On Christmas, I will accept turkey, ham, or beef, and I will be happy with any of them. The one thing I don't want is like tacos. And I've known some people who've done tacos on Christmas. This year, my sister's doing Italian, and I got to admit, I'm kind of nervous. You know, I know that the Italians celebrate Christmas, but I don't quite know how.
I mean, they're basically Catholic.
I mean, yeah, so. But like if you go too Catholic, there, you know, it's like going to church all day, and then you just eat whatever's available because, you know, and then I worry. Like, I don't think garlic toast has a place on a Christmas table to me. And I don't want most Italian food without garlic toast. So
the Christmas meal I'm looking forward to is the Chex Mix that my mom makes.
Oh, yeah?
Because that's what I ask for every Christmas. Like, that's all I want. I'm at the age where, you know, it's like, hey, what do you want for Christmas, son? And I'm like, well, Mom, just, you know, more of your love that you've been giving me for 37 years. Thank you. And I'll take some of that Chex Mix that you're always making.
All right, but have you been nice or naughty this year, Tucker? That's what your mom will probably ask, right?
But if you hear your mom say it, you just take it in the context of you being a kid again.
Really? Not according to a lot of websites these days.
Yeah. Well,
if your mom asks you that specifically, like if your stepmom asks you that, you better watch out.
You know, it kind of sounds like maybe we should be talking about your Google search histories right now, JJ.
You know what would be interesting? Would you like to know my last 4 Google? So I drank too much pop yesterday, and I stayed up way too late, and so my Google history is real interesting. Would you like to hear it?
I do, and remind me, I have a tangent off of that.
Okay, well. American Tall. So it's a website I remember hearing of once that sells clothes for tall people.
There you go.
And I went there and I got some stuff. Uneven toilet setting. Because I got a toilet in my basement that is on uneven ground that I need to do something with to take care of it. Okay. Quasit food. And I don't remember why I was searching Quasit, but for some reason. And then
what is Quasit?
What?
What's Quasit?
So Quasit is I was looking for, like, there's a lyric in the Beetlejuice musical about sage or chefs who put too much sage in their Quasit, but he's talking about browned butter, the French term for brown butter. So when I searched Quasit food, I got Cape Cod restaurant offerings, Weequasit Resort and Golf Club, 5-star luxury Cape Cod. So clearly it's like a Quipasitic. It's a very waspy area. And Wren Haven Farm on 99 West Quasit Road, Connecticut. So I was looking for the wrong thing. His pronunciation is just way off. And then I searched Blenders 2022 because I need to know what time today the Blenders concert was.
Are you going tonight?
No, I am not. In fact, I was trying to remember, like, what time is their matinee today. And it's at 2:00 and so, like, if you're listening to this, even the first moment that Tucker puts it on the internet, the concert series is over. You're gonna have to wait until 2023. Idiots. But
we've only had 2 Blenders on so far, right?
We've got to collect the rest.
Yeah.
In fact, you know what? So at my job, on Black Friday, we did a Blenders takeover. So a full hour of Blenders music. And I had sent the guys a request like, hey, could you send me some bumpers that I can use in and out of the song. So like, hey, it's Tim, Tim Casper from the Blenders. Thanks for listening to the Blenders Takeover. Tickets available at this point. And Tim sent me his, and then Alan sent me his. And Alan at one point, so you can tell he recorded on his own. He goes, "Hey everyone, it's Alan from the Blenders," and then it's his fake crowd cheer music behind it. Like just by saying his name, people show up to cheer, and I thought that was so funny. I think I used that 4 times in 1 hour because it just made my heart swell a little bit. Oh, okay, Tucker. So this is the thing I think we need to talk about today.
You were doing Google searches, right?
Oh, yeah, I did Google. You all said a tangent. So give me your tangent first before we get to my topic.
I've completely forgotten what it was.
Oh,
so
okay. So you seeing my Google searches, that doesn't prime any pumps for you or anything like that?
Yeah, I'm just not remembering what the tangent was.
I had a friend who would cross their fingers if there was something they wanted to, like if we're in a conversation and they cross their fingers, they want to go back to a point. And so they used it to remember. And I always thought every time they cross their fingers, okay, what is it? Like, just say it, blurt it out. I don't want to waste any more time in this conversation while we wait. Okay.
So, by the way, if we ever do want to get like a full Infinity Gauntlet of Blenders, we just have to make sure we also interview that one guy who was in the Blenders and that got replaced by Darren.
Yeah. And I mean, have we had Pat Casper on the show? Yeah, we have. Yeah, so we've got him as well.
Isn't that crazy that we're at the point now where I'm trying to remember who all we've had on the
that
show?
happens when you're 300 plus episodes deep. And what, has it been 4 years now? 5 years?
2018. So whatever that math, 4 years.
It'll be 5 years in January.
Holy shit.
Good for us. Well done. Well done. Okay.
So, we keep going all over the place, but you're saying there's something you want to talk about.
There is something I want to talk about. I want to say, do you remember when we talked about the best comedies of all time? And
I need to revisit that and revisit my list because I think I kind of
you were very spiteful. I think just by forcing a great. I mean, it's a great fantasy film, but I wouldn't count it as one of the top comedies of all time with The Princess Bride. But
right. But I think I also do think I want to, because I've been doing so much VHS collecting. I've been coming into contact with so many other movies that remind me, oh, that's right, this one exists. So I think I need to revise it to maybe not my view of what the greatest are, but what my top 5 are.
Okay.
Right. My personal faves.
I want to talk top 5 Christmas movies of all time. So this has become something that is an interesting discussion to me. Now, this is not a debate of whether or not something is or is not a Christmas movie. So I know plenty of people who view like the first Harry Potter movie as a Christmas movie because of the time of year it came out. There is a Christmas scene in the movie. And I'd be like, well, it encompasses an entire school year. So, but I'm not going to argue that. And I do not want to hear anything about this Die Hard thing because it's the low hanging fruit of people asking about stuff.
The Die Hard Christmas joke is a dead horse lying on the side of the road.
It is literally like Alan Rickman after he shoved off the building.
It's just a million people hitting that same fucking dead horse that it's just like a pile of dead horse cells on the side of the road and people are fucking still hitting the side of the dead horse.
Like, we get it, everybody. You're good to go. Okay. So
I think every time someone says like, you want to know what my favorite Christmas movie is Die Hard, should be followed with every single time.
I mean, that's not a bad way to describe it, right? I think okay, so these are my only parameters for it. It has to have been a theatrically released film. Meaning that we're taking like the Rankin and Bass television specials out of the mix.
Yeah, I was just thinking about that, but that totally destroys that. Even and you're saying it would have premiered there because I could see if one of those would have been like even like limited run in a city or something just to celebrate, but it would have to have been a release,
right? Correct. Theaters. And like, so for example, this also takes something like a Charlie Brown Christmas out of the mix, because that was a television special, not a theatrically released film. It also
I've already got
takes
2 of mine.
it also takes and all through the house out of the mix, which is the 19 God, I can't remember the year. It's like I'm gonna say like 1993 maybe, Tales from the Crypt episode where the woman murders her husband, but there's a deranged lunatic dressed as Santa Claus and she has to keep him from getting out of the house. It's real good stuff, real good. If you've never watched it, Tales from the Crypt and All Through the House, I think you watch the whole thing on YouTube, you will not be disappointed because it is friggin' nuts. So I want to start. Is that all right with you?
Oh yeah, please do. I'm making my list, and I think I've got 3 of my 5 already. But I need to think about this a little bit because this is important.
In no particular order as well. So it's not like I'm ranking these. These are just my top 5.
Well, and just again to kind of touch back a little bit on the Die Hard thing. What are we counting as a Christmas movie? Are you saying the genre needs to be Christmas movie?
No.
Somehow?
So, like, for example, if your family every year watched Patriot games on Christmas, go for it. But like,
you're talking movies that you watch at Christmas.
Yes. Movies you watch at Christmas. So,
but the movie doesn't have to have Christmas in it at all.
Correct. It doesn't have to. All of mine do. I'm going to just throw that out there. All of mine are all Christmas based. But you do you. Like if you're like, "Oh yeah, my dad used to make me watch oh god, I don't know. What would your dad
See, that's
make
the
you
thing
watch?
is my family has no traditions like that. Like my parents did not really expose my sister and I to like a ton of movies and music. They did a little bit. They weren't like keeping it from us, but those were not their passions either, right? And so like they weren't like showing us stuff all the time. There wasn't like, oh, we always got to watch this film or dad's always putting this on at this time. That just like wasn't a part of what we were doing. So my list is going to be movies that I feel like have enough of a Christmas vibe to them that I'll consider them a Christmas movie. Like an argument could be made that there's enough Christmassiness to it to qualify. But it would be tough for me to accept any film that doesn't even like mention Christmas, have a Christmas tree, have any snow or anything, right?
Yeah, I mean, that is acceptable in this. So it's whatever you do you. But again, I will say my art Christmas. So it's funny that you're just like, oh, okay, so like it could be but then you explain that your family doesn't have a tradition of watching anything. And also, I'm going to echo that my family didn't either. I literally would go ride my bike to the grocery store and get a TV guide and find out when my favorite Christmas specials were airing and circle them and leave family things so I could go downstairs and watch it because I didn't need to sit and listen to my parents shuffle playing cards because they were playing canasta and smoking cigarettes in the living room. I was raised by television and I turned out just fine. Thank you very much, psychology. So my first movie on the list, Muppet Christmas Carol. I have many times explained about my love of the Muppet Christmas Carol and how I think it's the best adaptation of that movie in modern day. It's got the right amount of humor. It's got the right amount of scary. Paul Williams' songs are amazing. Seeing it through the, like, who do you think is the biggest star in the Muppet universe? Like who's the number one Muppet? If like Mickey Mouse is the number one Disney character, who's the number one Muppet?
There's no question in my mind whatsoever. It's Rizzo the Rat.
Right. And guess what? They decide that Rizzo and Gonzo should be in 4/5 of this entire movie. And they made the right choice, right? Because Kermit might be the brand image, but he's not really in that much of this movie, if you really think about it.
He's the Spider-Man. He's the Superman. He's the lead guy. He's the one that they're going to bring out to do the interview with the press.
Right. And he's Michael Caine's favorite. But he doesn't have that much to do in this movie as Bob Cratchit. And I like that. Even though he gets one song. No, he gets 2 songs one he shares with his family, and then a reprise, but then he gets one more sleep till Christmas. To me, the Muppet Christmas Carol, I could watch it outside of the Christmas season and be just as joyful.
I think that this is something that they need to bring back with the Muppets. And you can correct me if I'm wrong about, oh, they're already doing this, Tucker, because I've not been paying attention to the Muppets. But I think the best era of Muppets movies are when the Muppet characters like Kermit and Fozzie and Gonzo are treated as actors who get cast in roles.
Correct. So it's like the role of Captain Smollett will be played by Kermit the Frog.
Exactly. Yep. Right. Because then you look at these characters take on a larger life of their own as actual actors in the real world. Because then you think like, all right, what if we did a Batman Muppet movie? You know, who's playing Batman?
Yeah.
Right. Who's playing Joker? Who's playing all these things? And you would actually cast it with these immortal actors.
And not only that, but then they get to bring their own take on it. Right. So you never. Mm-hmm. I think having a great grounded human being in that role, so like the Tim Currys, the Michael Caines of the world, is amazing. But watching them play a character, I think is fun. And really, that's what happened in the first Muppet movie. That's what happened in the Great Muppet Caper. Muppets Take Manhattan, they're playing themselves. And so it's like, and then the most recent couple Muppet movies, they're playing themselves. And that it just doesn't feel as fun. It feels like everything else hinges on something else, and they haven't found out what that something else is. So,
and, yeah, like the newer stuff is more about pop culture references.
Correct.
And,
yep.
You know, being self-aware and having nostalgia fan nods and things like that.
And so even like throw me some fake posters. Like if you're going to take me inside of Kermit's house, show me a couple like failed projects that he's done over the years, you know, where it's like Indiana Frog and the Temple of Bloom or something like that.
Dude, they could totally. All right. Imagine you wake up and this is the news that you hear. You hear that who owns Jim Henson's company.
So the Jim Henson Company is a separate entity, but all of the Muppets are now owned by Disney.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So the Muppets and Jim Henson Company are no longer tied together.
Right. In the sense of like, if Disney's going to do a Muppet movie, they're going to call up the Jim Henson Company and be like, hey, we need to order some Muppets and you gotta get the performers. But the Jim Henson Company is a separate entity that does projects like on its own. They do a ton of stuff on PBS. They're producing Fraggle Rock for Apple TV.
Got it. So this would never happen because it would require a teaming up between Disney and Time Warner. But imagine that you woke up one morning and you found out that Disney and Time Warner have reached a deal with Jim Henson Studios coming in as the production company to produce like a drama series on HBO starring the Muppets. And it's like the Muppets plus real people, but it's just like a drama, like a straight up character drama, relationships, losing their job. You know, the Muppets haven't been a thing for a long time and they've all moved on to different parts of their lives. Like they could make a really excellent show doing that. They could absolutely break your heart in the same way that human actors could.
Oh, without a doubt. I mean, because I think you're even more invested in a Muppet character than you are in a human character, because the Muppets are supposed to represent something, you know, you guys, we just want to put on a show. And you don't think of them with things like jealousies or, you know, having ill intent for each other. So you want
JJ, if I may, on my list, Muppets Christmas Carol was also on my list.
Fantastic. I love that.
So I share that with you. It is, I think it's the best. It is, like, I agree with you. It's the best telling of a Christmas Carol of all time. And it's difficult to imagine it ever being topped, for me, at least. Yeah, so it's up there. It's one of, I don't know if I'd call it the best Muppet movie, but it's up there, right?
Yeah.
Like if you were to do a top 5 Muppet or top 3 Muppet movies, it's in the top 3, no question. Where it is in the top 3, I don't quite know, but yep, Muppet Christmas Carol. Absolutely love every second of that movie.
Okay, so now tell me another one from your list then.
Okay. Another one from my list. and this might be on your list too. I don't know. Actually, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. I don't know. Is Home Alone.
Interesting. Yeah.
Home Alone. I was just rewatching clips from it the other day. I don't remember what got me to go down that rabbit hole, but I think Home Alone is also just beyond being a really great Christmas movie. It's just a phenomenal movie. I watched the scene where that's what sent me down. I had read an article about someone else who had grown up thinking that Angels with Filthy Souls was a real movie.
Yeah.
And I thought that too until a few years ago when I realized that it wasn't. And so I was going down a rabbit hole of fake movies in movies. And I started watching the scene where Kevin is not fully realized yet that he is absolutely home alone. He thinks everyone is like hiding and they're messing with him or something, right? And so he's doing all the things to try to get in trouble, right? Like he's eating all the ice cream and he's
watching a movie. Someone better come stop me.
Yeah, like there's stuff in the movie he shouldn't be watching, stuff like that. That whole sequence of what he does when he thinks when he's being that version of Kevin is such an amazing little short film, and it does a lot for the greater movie as well. First of all, it's exactly what a little kid would do. Like it's such an amazing recreation of with an amazing child actor and amazing director of a story of a little kid. But also it sets up all these gags that you need to have set up in the third act when he's fighting off the burglars, right? So showing the laundry chute when he's BB gunning the sports action figures down it, showing the BB gun itself, a bunch of different things that he's doing then. It's just really, really, really well done. And it makes me think of the kind of filmmaking you get in a movie when they're doing it for the first time versus trying to recreate the magic of a previous film like a sequel will do.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not self-aware at all as to what the audience is expecting and looking for. It's just trying a new thing. And that's what that movie feels like to me.
Home Alone is not on my list, but
okay.
I truly understand its cultural impact. It is an annual watch for sure in my family. In fact, my Christmas card this year is Home Alone themed. And I think to me, one of the things about Home Alone that I enjoy the most is that it reminds me of an era of my life, right? Like I remember my family went to maybe 4 movies together as a family total in my childhood. And I remember going to Home Alone and I remember buying our tickets and then getting in line for popcorn. And then one of the ticket takers having to get up on top of like a counter and be like, all right, ladies and gentlemen, the 7:25 screening of Home Alone is sold out. And you hear, oh, you don't get moments like that in movie theaters anymore.
No,
it is it is pure joy. It is golden. It is beautiful. I loved it. It was great. So that's one of those things. And of course, it's a great John Candy role. I love the fan theory that he's the devil in that movie. And he gets Catherine O'Hara's soul for delivering her to Chicago in kind of a monkey's paw way where she has to pay a price by riding with all these polka guys. I love that. That's fantastic. Okay. Another on my list that potentially could be on yours would be National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And one of the reasons Christmas Vacation is on my list is because the older I get, the more I identify with Clark W. Griswold. Now, I think a lot of people would tell you that of all the vacation movies, this one is their favorite, or this is the one they've seen the most for sure. Not only because it's annual viewing, but because the movie continues to remain as funny as when it came out. So you can watch this movie today and laugh just as heartily as you did in 1990 when it came out. And this is what I think is interesting. Name any other movie franchise where the third one is the best one.
Oh, sure.
And this is the case for Christmas Vacation.
Was the second Vegas? No,
the second one was European Vacation. Then it was Christmas Vacation, then Vegas. Then it was the reboot. And and then those hotels.com commercials that they made. So I think to me, this is it's a perfect comedy. Jill and I watched it recently, and I found myself laughing. Friggin' the side characters make this thing. They don't even introduce Aunt Bethany until 2/3 of the way through the movie, and everything that woman says, I think, is hilarious. Don't throw me down, clock. Is Rusty still in the Navy? This house is bigger than your old one. And it's just, is your house on fire, Clark? No, Aunt Bethany. It's so good. Helen, are you still dating, Clark? It's so funny. And that woman actually, is the voice of Betty Boop. And so,
oh, no kidding.
Yeah, she's
really?
the voice of Betty Boop. And so, like, if you listen, you can kind of hear it a little bit. And it's like, why don't you go to the living room and say hello to everyone? I should say it. I should say hello, everybody. Just, say it. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody. Oh, my God. And it's honest to God, it is one of Randy Quaid's master classes in comedy because his character is grating and annoying, but it's not played in a way that feels false, right? Like this guy, it's not that he is so obtuse that he can't read the room. This guy just doesn't think it's a problem when the dog is drinking from the tree water and Clark says, stop drinking. He goes, oh, a little tree water is not going to hurt him. That is a reaction that people have when they just don't understand what the other person's trying to say. Like Clark's not worried about the dog. He's worried about his tree drying out, right? Like it's so well written. And even though it is so old, it still feels the same because we all put that same pressure on ourselves to have this perfect Christmas. And we want all our family to be there. And somehow we forget year after year that it is freaking miserable to try and make something perfect and to have something that is great. And so to me, National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is amazing. And like, I will sing the Mavis Staples song, like Santa's on his way. Hip, hip, hooray for Christmas Vacation. I love that. I just love it. It's fantastic. All right. Any thoughts on Christmas Vacation for you, Tucker?
I love that film, but it's not in my top 5.
Okay. Lovely.
But I can't disagree with a single thing you said. I really want to go and rewatch her scenes.
Oh, you absolutely should. And like when at the very end, first of all, when they ask Aunt Bethany to lead Grace, and they're like, they want you to say Grace. Grace has been dead for 40 years. Blessing.
I do. Is it her husband though, who I think says you couldn't hear a dump truck driving through a nitroglycerin
That's
factory?
the one. Yep, it's her husband.
I love that line.
And it's funny
and that's
because
the same actor who refers to them as the Green Boys.
Yep.
In Major Payne.
Yep. Oh, it's so good. It's so good.
So that's not on my list, but the next one I'm going to add is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Oh, lovely.
Which also qualifies as a Halloween movie. It's both. It's absolutely both. I would say really Nightmare Before Christmas, you can start watching that on October 1st through New Year's.
Funny you mentioned that because I was just listening to a podcast where they talk about this is the perfect holiday film because it carries itself from the fall into the winter. And so you have this constant streaming. So even if you watch it on Halloween, you can still watch it on Christmas.
Exactly. So but it's also a masterpiece of a movie. It's not just a great Christmas movie. It is a fucking masterpiece. It is so amazing for every single piece of it, from the music, the story, the character design, all of it. I absolutely love The Nightmare Before Christmas. Probably the best stop motion film ever made. For sure the best stop motion film ever made.
They had it on the big screen last year and I went and saw it. And next time you pop that on, and I'm not talking about you specifically, Tucker, I'm talking to the listeners, really look at and appreciate the fact that every single movement took somebody if you've got 5 characters who are all taking a step, in that 1 second it takes for them to take a step, it was 24 frames, and you've got 5 characters, which means it's 108 articulated movements, and that's for 1 second. So just appreciate everything that goes into it. And like, think about this, they had to create sets on that scale, and I think the only live action shot in that whole movie is where Sally puts the spoon that has the slotted holes into the soup, and it's like it's actual live action. And you must really just that must have been a good day for the camera tech to be like, oh my god, thank God.
Well, and it's shot on film.
Yeah, it's gorgeous.
It's completely shot on film. Like, digital filmmaking wasn't a thing yet, and it shows. And I could go on a tangent about that for a whole another day. But my next one on the list is The Nightmare Before Christmas.
Excellent
That
choice.
was another one that I thought 50-50 chance this is on JJ's list.
I actually have another one that's similar, where I can start watching it on Thanksgiving and watch it all through Christmas. And it's The Miracle on 34th Street from the 90s. The one with Richard Attenborough as Santa Claus, and it's got, Mara Wilson, and great cameo by Horatio Sands for all of 2 seconds. And to me, here's what I think is amazing about this. It is a movie about Santa Claus, but it's really a movie about believing in magic, right? So the movie is seen through the eyes of Mara Wilson, this little girl who knows that Santa Claus does not exist. Her mother has told her as so. And you spend the whole movie going through that journey she has, where she finally decides she's going to believe in Santa Claus. And whether or not he really was Santa and that he made these things happen, you'll never know. But it's enough to make you kind of start to question some stuff near the end. They, at no point do they ever prove that there is a Santa Claus, but they can't prove that there is not a Santa Claus.
Spoiler alert, JJ. Spoiler alert.
The original has been out since 1935, so I think I'm probably all right. If you are 90 plus years old and you're listening to JJ Meets World and I spoiled that for you, gosh, I'm sorry, but you probably couldn't make it because your brother had polio, and
I've had that TiVo'd since the 50s. I was going to get to it.
TiVoing in the 50s. Wouldn't that be wonderful? It is. Okay, so the performances are amazing. It is black and white, good versus bad, right? That's one of the things I like about it, is that there's all, it's all good or all bad. It's got a timeless look to it. It's meant to evoke the feelings of like the 30s. And I think they did a great job with it. It's lit really interestingly. John Hughes took a swing at the script, and so he is one of those guys who understands the Christmas holiday. It begins the day of like a faux Macy's Day parade, and so you get Thanksgiving vibes from it. It is just so good, and I tear up every single time when they bring the little girl and he says, hello, what's your name? And the mom goes, you don't have to talk to her. She's deaf. She just wanted to see you. And Santa looks at the mom and then looks at the little girl, and he kind of stammers a little bit. And then he starts signing to the little girl. And, what's your name? And, it is just, and then he sings Jingle Bells with her, signing the whole thing, and it will bring a tear to your eye. Also, Allison Janney has a cameo as the ultimate New York mother in this, and it's one of the reasons I have such a huge crush on Allison Janney, is she can take a role that has all of like 5 lines of dialogue and make me fall madly in love with her. So good. Love it.
I'm trying to picture who she is right now. I'm going to have to Google it real quick because I'm not picturing
Allison Janney, like from The West Wing or Drop Dead Gorgeous.
Oh, there you go. Yep.
She's amazing. So that would be the third film on my list, would be Miracle on 34th Street, the 90s version of it. Which also, by the way, is one of the things I hate the most, because Raja Gosnell was the editor on that movie, and it's one of the things that put him on the map and then allowed him to eventually make those god awful Scooby-Doo and Smurf movies. So it's tough for me to say that.
Can I talk about editing for one real quick tangent here?
Yeah, please do.
Do you know what is a terribly edited movie? Black Adam.
Oh yeah.
I just watched it, and there's a lot of things to be critical about in that movie, like the movie itself, but the editing is so fucking bad. It is crazy how bad it is. And it looks to me, it's the kind of thing where if I was the editor working on it, I'd be like, can we not say that I worked on this? Right? Because this is not, it looks like not an edit that an editor would have wanted to put
Mhm.
together, but that they were getting notes about, hey, this isn't moving fast enough. We want more cuts here. We want more cuts. We want this happen. We want that happen. Or they have to cut out so many things just to make space that it wasn't shot in a way that would support those cuts. And so everything is awkward. That movie fucking blows. And the editing to me was the worst part. Now, because I'm an editor, that's going to stand out to me, but I think it's pretty objectively bad how bad the editing in that movie is. I just had to say it because I just saw it yesterday and I was like, God damn it. How does something that costs however many millions of dollars it was to make get edited so fucking poorly like this? I don't get
It
it.
also makes me lose a lot of faith in The Rock because he for years talked about how amazing this movie is and how proud he was of the script and how great.
Yeah.
I honestly want to know, like, is this the movie that you intended to make 3 years ago?
Well, he's there's a couple things that are just stacked against it even succeeding in the first place for the like I haven't heard this if this is confirmed or not, but I think it's pretty well confirmed that The Rock in his negotiations in action movies has it set up so he never loses a fight.
Really?
So like in Black Adam, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, Black Adam never loses a fight. He only decides to give up his power at one point. He decides to lose, right?
Hmm.
Or to submit. And so like The Rock is in control the whole time. And in the marketing leading up to The Rock, there's like a supercut of him saying this over and over again, how the hierarchy of power in the DC universe is about to change, as though how strong a character is the thing that makes the fans love them, right? Oh, well, he's even stronger than that guy. Therefore, he's now my favorite because of that. It's just boring. And there's nothing about The Rock just walking around in a superhero costume smoldering that's really that interesting to a general audience, except for those who have been following his career from the beginning. So he's doing the same thing in his movie career that you would do in professional wrestling if you were playing the role of the hero, right?
Sure.
And you were a big deal. You'd be able to write in your contract, yeah, I don't lose matches. I always win. But in movies, that is just, it's absolutely so dull. And so there's just zero stakes whenever a fight is happening whatsoever. Combine that in that movie with just everything else that sucks. It's poorly written. It's poorly shot. There's a few good, like, fun, like, set pieces for a moment, but it just flat out sucks from start to finish. It is a bad movie. And it's been kind of crazy to watch and hear about all the shakeups at DC now that the co-CEOs are Gunn and Safran, however you pronounce his last name, and how, Henry Cavill is now out as Superman, and who knows about Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman, and basically everyone else. It's just a complete reshake-up. So I just think there's no question that The Rock is out. I think there was even an article about how his Instagram account has started unfollowing different DC accounts, including Black Adam.
Ooh, interesting.
But this is a perfect segue into the next film on my list.
Oh, go for it.
Which is Batman Returns.
Oh, lovely. Excellent choice.
Right. And that really is, that's not a tongue-in-cheek Christmas movie where someone's like, oh, Die Hard. No, it's like Batman Returns really is at Christmas and really holds on to Christmas the entire time. Right. It's a part of the whole imagery. So Batman Returns is just such a, it's peak. It's sort of almost peak Tim Burton Batman in some ways, and I really miss it. I wish we could have seen that universe continue on a bit more. But
one of the things that I give it major props for is that by putting it against the backdrop of Christmas, the second Batman movie, in a weird way, you up the stakes in the appropriate amount, right? It
Right.
it's not just a dark movie, it's a dark Christmas movie. And let's also just give a quick shout out. I know we're only talking about theatrically released films, but Batman has really rocked some Christmas stuff. So, for example, the episode of Batman the Animated Series where Batman's explaining to Robin why you need to watch It's a Wonderful Life, and then the Joker has taken Commissioner Gordon captive, is a perfect Christmas episode of a television series. Friggin' perfect. So good. So I agree, Tucker. Batman Returns is an amazing Christmas movie. And I'm kind of curious about, why, like clearly it was a choice by Tim Burton, but I wonder if there's any pushback from the studio of like, maybe this shouldn't be at Christmas. Cause like pushing the like Miss Gotham or whatever onto the tree lighting box during the ceremony.
Right.
Like there's some dark junk there.
Well, the Christmas aspect of it, I think, works so well because Christmas looks really good on that version of Gotham City, which is very, it's very, very gothic, obviously, very dark, old architecture and statues. And it's got kind of a, almost a combination of some sort of futurism with the 1930s and 40s, 1930s, really, aspect to it. So I think it really, I think Christmas and Tim Burton's Gotham go together like peanut butter and chocolate.
Yeah.
And so from an aesthetic standpoint, I think it just kind of works. Mike, I think they probably gave much more pushback on how grotesque the Penguin was, because I know that was a big deal for how they changed things up in Batman Forever in their approach to Two-Face. Is they thought that the studio thought that, especially when Penguin's doing things like eating the raw fish, biting the guy's nose, having black ink, rolling down his mouth, which is all awesome and makes him a really awesome bad guy, right? For toy purposes and kid purposes, they thought it was too scary, too gross, so they had to peel it back. It's such a weird tug of war of tone with Batman that all these studios are always trying to do is, do we go campy? Do we go super gritty dark? Right. And it's always going back and forth, one between the two. We need something to just, if anything, I think the Burton movies almost perfectly straddled the two, because there's definitely some camp there, Penguin riding a helicopter umbrella. Right. A lot of the things that Joker does is pretty campy, but it fits. And it's still dark in a way. So I think the Tim Burton Batman era is probably my favorite live action film era, because I think it gets the tone of who Batman is the best, where Batman is like this guy who is sort of highly theatrical, right? He's not doing every single karate move on the planet. He's doing all these tricks to make him seem even more dangerous than he is.
I love that. I love that a lot. Okay. My next one couldn't be more different, if I'm going to be honest. And it's Elf. Elf becomes a holiday classic the minute it gets released. And if you haven't watched the Netflix series, The Movies That Made Us, the episode on Elf, it's amazing because nobody believed in this movie. And it honestly skyrocketed Will Ferrell to be a household name. Old School had come out that year, and just a couple months before this, and he had,
wow, that was a huge year for him,
massive year. And this solidified that he wasn't just a part of that Brat Pack, not the Brat Pack. What do they call them? New millennial version of that. But like, look at Vince Vaughn's career, right? Vince Vaughn is a one-note pony because he didn't have enough diversity. Like, he kept getting cast in the same role over and over and over again. And Will Ferrell proves that he can be Frank the Tank and Buddy the Elf in the same year. And I think that's why his career exploded so much more. This is a perfect Christmas movie. Again, it's about believing, it's about family, it's about being, a fish out of water. You get all of these amazing things, and it's grounded by Will Ferrell's over-the-top, perfectly lovable role. I mean, he's playing a kid who hasn't been jaded by the world, and he's a Christmas elf. And I love it. And I also love the fact that even though he's been offered boatloads of money, he has decided not to make a sequel.
Well, was it him and Favreau that had conflict?
Yes, correct.
Was that during the making of they had
Yes.
conflict?
Yes.
What was the conflict over?
So I mean, I think they both have been trying to be very cordial about it, but I think Will Ferrell comes from a world where he loves to improvise, right? And so the performance for him is, can be heightened every time you take another take. And I think Jon Favreau was a guy, and at this point, he was a pretty fresh director. You hadn't seen a lot from him at that point as a director, and he wanted things to be set up the way they were. And so he was not the guy who wanted him improvising take after take after take. And you can see the lack of chemistry in the scene where Jon Favreau plays the doctor and Will Ferrell plays Buddy the Elf. You can tell that they are on screen together and they're not enjoying it. But sometimes conflict, just like a rock striking a piece of iron, sometimes it can create a spark. And I think that's what you got in this movie.
Well, I want to know if the fault really lies with Will Ferrell or not, because when he had his falling out with Adam McKay, I can understand feeling slighted by McKay for how things went down, but I don't understand how a full deconstruction of their working relationship would have happened. And by all accounts, it sounds like that was sort of a choice of Will Ferrell, of like, you know what, let's just be done. So I'm wondering if Ferrell is he kind of a fucking jerk? Maybe. I don't know.
I mean,
Maybe.
I think it's hard. I think it's hard to be one of the most celebrated comedians of all time and know that like a movie rests on your shoulders, right? So like if people don't like Anchorman 2, it's because of you. They don't like call out anything else. And I think that at one point people wanted to be in the Will Ferrell business, but they didn't necessarily want to be in the Will Ferrell and becoming a better actor and comedian business. Does that make sense at all?
Sure.
So, but I think Elf is a perfect Christmas movie. Again, it tears me up the moment that James Caan starts singing and the sleigh takes off into the air. And it just, even like the little side things, like Matt Walsh's weird cameo when he's talking to the newswoman in it is amazing. The guy who they cast to work in the mailroom with him, who's like, I got all these ideas, but no one listens to me because I got to get out of the flow. I got to get out of it. Just great stuff. I love that movie start to finish. You're up next.
This might feel like a cop out. I don't know. I don't want it to, but it's on my top 5. Home Alone 2.
Nope, not at all. Totally. Like here, I watched Home Alone 2 last night, Tucker. And I think a lot of people will be like, well, it's just the same thing over. And I'm like, it is not. It is drastically different.
It's the most successful form of bringing back all the gags from the previous film into the new one and somehow making them new in some way. It's the most successful version of that I've ever seen. It's not ultimately as good of a movie as Home Alone 1 for some of those reasons, but it's still amazing. That was actually the first movie. Home Alone 2 was the first movie that I read the novelization of after watching the movie.
Really?
like and by novelization, I mean, someone made a book that a kid could read, but I was a really big reader as a kid. I was reading about 3 years ahead of my reading level. And so I got it. And then I remember reading it and loving the book read of it as well. I also, whenever I think of that movie, I think of a particular Christmas, because we used to do Christmas in Kentucky all the time. And which made Christmas even more magical for me as a kid. My Uncle Tim had this kind of ramshackle log cabin that he had built as sort of like a temporary home while he was working on what eventually would be their home now. And I remember staying there as a kid, and I thought it was the coolest place to stay. And I remember one night we all ate Lucky Charms and we watched Home Alone 2. And I thought, this is the best night ever. I just thought I remember I have such a great memory of that night. And I always think of Home Alone 2 and Kentucky and Christmas at the same time.
Oh, I love that. That's a great Christmas memory.
Yeah. Also, I love I wish we could have seen what the third would have looked like following the same structure, right? Because Kevin has to befriend some elderly adult who has been kind of either forgotten or ignored or is isolated in some way. I'd love to find out who the person would be in the third movie. Because if the first one is a guy who everyone thinks is kind of scary, who lives next door, who's just had a falling out with his son, and that's really all he's had, to a lady who's covered in bird poop because she lives outside with the birds, but she's very sweet and she gives him, they're always there to hand out some sort of wisdom. Who would the third have been?
I mean, I think I gotta go the opposite. I think Kevin's got to take care of a baby. Right? Like that's where the stakes are, is that they have a new baby and somehow they get separated and Kevin's holding the baby. And so he's got to save the baby because the sticky wet bandits want to get back at Kevin. And so they're going to kidnap his son because now they're kidnappers, right? Like in the first movie, they rob houses. In the second movie, they're robbing toy stores. They got to up their stakes as well.
Can you imagine getting old as fuck Joe Pesci into another Home Alone movie somehow?
Yeah. Oh, I would love that.
Like, we're going to do the set your head on fire thing again. Just FYI.
Okay. So we've come down to the last on my list, and in the pantheon of Christmas movies, there's a lot out there. And so it's like, what are you going to choose? What's the last one? And mine is an off the beaten path Christmas movie that I think deserves some more attention. It's from 1994, directed by Nora Ephron. The cast is Steve Martin, Rita Wilson, Adam Sandler. Oh my gosh, who else is in this? The Gary Shandling. Why can't I think of the woman who worked with Mel Brooks all the time as like Lily Von Stupp? It is, Liev Schreiber is in it. It is a phenomenal Christmas movie. It's called Mixed Nuts. And Steve Martin runs a like suicide help hotline. And it's Christmas Eve and it's set like in Palm Beach. And they're going to lose the lease on their building. There's a strangler who's loose in this town. It's all of these separate stories that are kind of coming together at the same time. And it's about the people who work at the hotline. It's them going home for Christmas. It is.
What's it called again?
Mixed Nuts.
Mixed Nuts. Yes. Okay.
And it's a great Steve Martin role because he gets to be goofy, but he's not the goofiest one of the whole cast. Right. And like in 1994, like there's, oh my! It's so good. It is well worth a watch. It's one of those movies that I remember pulling off the shelf at Take-Two Video and being like, "This looks interesting," and has become a staple of my grown-up life. I watch it every year around the holidays, and it's a good Christmas movie. It also is unique in the fact of like, since they set this in a California beach town, they have to do a lot to get you. Jon Stewart is in this movie as a rollerblader with Parker Posey. One of the things that they do is they have to make it known that it's Christmas, but how do you do that when you don't have snow? Like snow is the automatic Christmas moment for a lot of movies. And so people are wearing Christmas stuff. They are, there's trees everywhere. It's well decorated. So it's kind of this fun juxtaposition of Christmas against a California background. It's very funny. It's very heartwarming and sweet. I love it. And, the movie's almost 30 years old. And I think that it's just as funny, even though most of the technology in it is incredibly outdated. Okay, Tucker, your fifth film on the list.
I'm going to give you my fifth film, but I've got a question for you first, JJ.
Go for it.
Why does your list not include Gremlins?
Because I love Gremlins. I don't want to shoehorn it as a Christmas movie.
But it is a Christmas movie, right?
It's a movie that takes place at Christmas. But to me, here's part of the problem. I don't watch Christmas Vacation outside of the Christmas season. It is, to me, like that is the time of the year I watch that movie. I can watch Gremlins anytime.
Sure.
And so,
got it.
And don't get me wrong. Like it's like the same reason why people like, oh, Planes, Trains, Automobiles is one of my favorite Christmas movies. First of all, go to hell because they're trying to get home for fucking Thanksgiving. And I can tell you right now, one of my goals, I thought about this last night when I was up too late because I drank too much pop. I need to somehow become the president of Paramount Pictures and it's only to change the GD cover art where they've included a candy cane pole and Christmas presents on the DVD case, and it's ridiculous. These guys are going home for Thanksgiving. They are not getting home for Christmas. Stop trying to shoehorn this in as a Christmas movie, Paramount Pictures. You're ruining it for everybody. Just a thought.
Well, my fifth film is another telling of A Christmas Carol, and it's the second best telling of A Christmas Carol of all time. So if you're a filmmaker out there and you're like, I want to make a retelling of A Christmas Carol, and I'm going to try to make mine the best of all time, it doesn't just have to do better than Muppets Christmas Carol. It also has to do better than Scrooged.
Oh, lovely choice.
Is just brilliant. Is such a good movie, and probably the first time as a kid I saw nipples in a major motion picture.
You can hardly see them nipples.
That's
and
a
he's
scene that
looking
would
really
never,
close.
ever get put into a PG-13 movie ever again, or PG or whatever it is. What is it? Is it PG?
I think it's no, it's definitely PG. It's by the air that PG-13's been invented, so it's got to be PG-13.
Okay, because that's kind of an insane scene.
Yeah,
now if you think about it,
it's a scary movie too. Like, it really takes the fact that A Christmas Carol is a ghost story and really expands the fact that it's terrifying when he opens up the Ghost of Christmas Future's robes and sees those dead bodies in the rib cage. That's messed up, man.
Yeah, it is pretty.
Who's your favorite of the three ghosts in that movie?
Oh, I mean,
do you like the Ghost of Christmas Present with all the physical beat up comedy? Do you like the Ghost of Christmas Past, the old cabbie played by Dexter Poindexter or whatever?
It's definitely Christmas Present. What's her name again? She was in Princess Bride.
Yeah, she's Miracle Max's wife. Mm-hmm. She's one of the undersung, I think, character actresses of all time.
She's fantastic, and I'm blanking on her name right now. By the way, I want to give a quick shout out before we wrap up this episode. I received a gift recently of a bunch of VHS tapes, which I'll now have to go see. I don't think there's any Christmas stuff in there, but from frequent podcast listener Benjamin Moen.
Oh, nice.
He was cleaning out, just cleaning up his house, and had a big thing of tapes. I wanted to get rid of them, and so gave them to me the other day. And since we're talking shop with movies, thank you, Ben, for the tons of VHS tapes he just gave me. JJ, I've got VHS tapes coming out my ears right now.
The amount of Titanics that you have right now is insane.
I got to figure out how I'm gonna ship those, because that's 42 copies of Titanic on VHS.
It might be cheaper to drive them.
It might be. That's to Florida. But I will be guaranteed the submission record by a long shot on that dude's channel. So, and he's getting close to 1,000. So if mine can be the one that puts him over 1,000, even better. But I don't know. I gotta figure that out pretty soon. It's going to be inexpensive shipping.
Well, I mean, but that's good, right? It's nice when something's expensive.
Well, it's worth it. I think it's worth it. And I think next year, then what I can do is just go, okay, that's pretty much how much it's going to cost me probably to send a ton of Titanics. So throughout the year, for every Titanic that I pick up, I'll put $1 aside.
Oh, that's
right?
a great idea.
Okay, this is for shipping this Titanic, and this is for shipping this Titanic. Or probably $2 to $3 aside per Titanic.
It's funny because it's costing you 5 times what you paid for it to ship it.
Yeah. but it's so worth it to be immortalized in Titanic Fan 97's channel.
That's awesome. As we bring this one to a close, let's not forget that Santa Claus is always watching, and you have an opportunity to be nice if you've been naughty this year. And if you've been really naughty, don't forget the Northern in Fargo, where naughty is nice. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode and would like to help us continue to produce new episodes each week, visit jjmeetsworld.com, where you can donate to our Patreon, pick up some swag at the merch shop, or follow our link to Apple Podcasts and leave us a 5-star review. You can also follow us on social media. We're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, all the sites the cool kids are using these days. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by visiting moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, check out linebenders.com, where you can find direct contact info for JJ or booking information. I found out recently that I have a tail.